Welcome to our Careers Now mentorship session on sustainability. My name is Nicole Gallace, and I am excited to bring this conversation to you today with Solange Ackrill, who will introduce herself in a moment. And until we get to that, please visit www.careersnow.ca to create your job seeker account, where you can access this mentorship session, previous mentorship sessions, as well as job fairs and other great resources to help you find a role in the food and beverage processing sector. And without further ado, I'll pass things over to Solange. I've asked her if she wouldn't be so kind to kind of give us a background, how you joined this industry, like your education, your career path. If you wouldn't mind, it's always interesting to hear how people end up in the role they're in, and then obviously we'll move into your presentation on sustainability.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Solange Ackrill. I'm with Club Coffee and OFI Company. OFI is Olam Food Ingredients. I've been here over about 10 years in a VP of Marketing, Commercialization, and ESG role. ESG is environmental, social, and governance. And my career has mainly been in food, really, in different companies that represent the supply chain. I would say in Club Coffee, we're manufacturing, we do coffee, but I've also had a strong background in retail in Canada with Walmart Canada, Loblaw, and the Northwest Company, working in First Nations communities in retail and in stores. They're like little general merchandise and food stores in all the different northern regions. And I would say, I mean, that's really helped me in my career to understand, from manufacturing, retail, also have CPG experience from Maple Leaf Foods. So it's a good spectrum and sort of cross-pollination of knowledge, with different aspects, working with different stakeholders, building an amazing network. And my background started in my degrees in psychology, and it has been applicable. I always say, it may not be directly correlated, but there's a lot of statistics and insights and analytics, understanding how things work. And in the end, it always comes down to, the demand, supply and demand. What does the consumer want, or whoever your end consumer or customer is, and how are you able to supply them? So it's a basic, model, but it's different and varying across that supply chain. And I've leveraged a lot of learning, definitely from the academic side, but mostly the experiential side. And sustainability has just been at the forefront of what we've been doing at Club Coffee and OFI. So really excited to share some of that with you today.
Awesome. Did you know you always wanted to work in the food industry?
I did actually. Well, I didn't start with my first job, actually. My first job was McDonald's. When it was even before I could really work, I went to apply for a job. I always joke around. I had my one-page 20-point font resume in a fire hall because it wasn't built yet. And I was always tall for my age, but I knew by the time it opened, I'd be able to work there. And I got the job, and I became a manager through high school. I worked all through school at like 16, and even through the first year of university. And yeah, it started my career in food. And I would say that was probably the place that I learned the most. You have to learn quality, process, dealing with all types of people, managing people of, different ages, really being quick on your feet, making tough decisions at a young age. I learned the most, and I'm really grateful for that. So yes, it's been pretty much throughout my entire career.
I love that. Both my sons started their two high school worked at McDonald's, and I had said to them, I'd heard other people say similar thing. It's the best training ground, starting off point. So that's really, really cool. Well, I would love to dive into your presentation. I'll also share anyone that's listening. We will stick to the hour. If you do have any questions at the end, then please feel free to reach out to myself or Solange. You can write a comment, and we can reach out to you wherever you're viewing this after the event, even if you're not joining today. So thank you, and over to you.
Thanks, Nicole. Can you see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So let me try to forward over here. Oh, a little fast. I'll just take you through just an overview of Club Coffee OFI, the focus on sustainability, our particular innovation journey in Club Coffee, where we focused a lot. Coffee greens is really important, but our focus too has been on packaging, sustainable packaging, and I'll go through the why and the impact, and then key learnings and what's ahead for us. Now, OFI in general is a large global company, over 30 years in the agri-food business. And there's 5 major platforms where they're ingredients and product solutions based: cocoa, coffee, dairy, nuts, and spices. And they're leaders in all of these 5 platforms. And the purpose statement for OFI is be the change for good food and a healthy future. And all these ingredient solutions, it's one of the largest companies that you may not realize that you're consuming their ingredients and some amazing innovation, but they influence from bakery to beverages, confectionery, dairy, all sorts of, culinary innovations and snacking like nuts and so on. They have customer solution centers and ingredient excellence centers around the globe. But one of the newest ones is the Customer Center of Excellence in Chicago. It's state of the art. It's amazing, where they have their main office in Chicago, but a research center of packaging, subject matter experts, different technologies, especially in coffee. There's some amazing technologies and being able to understand, the composition of the coffee to be able to actually, map out all the different types of notes and the types of roast levels to get to the science of making really great coffee that we can leverage. And there's an amazing culinary kitchen. We have a lot of different meetings that we host there. And at Club Coffee, based out of Toronto, we have 4 main facilities. We actually started, I wasn't around when it started, but in 1906 as a roaster, a traditional roaster, and really where the packaged kind of innovation started to happen with single serve for like Keurig machines, really started to come into the household in 2012, 2013, and they built their first single serve plant in 2013. And then they evolved that. It was a soft pod, and they evolved that into a compostable pod because it seemed very wasteful, all these different pods going to landfill. And I'll take you through why they went compostable and worked with an amazing partner, Loblaw, Canada's top retailer for private label, to launch it. And we continued through that. That's about when I came on to help them launch the Pure Pod, which is our compostable pods. We have compostable Nespresso capsules in an optimal smaller footprint. And we have game-changing paper-based Bordio under our Aroma Pack line I'll take you through, which is replacing cans and bags, which aren't as sustainable, and giving the solution for great tasting coffee that's kept fresh. Our acquisition to OFI was in 2022, and we have new projects that we're still working on to continue to evolve where we focus. We're looking at rigid cup for single serve, and looking at the compostable solutions for that as well, and films, monolayer films. So a lot on the go as we evolve and work with the environment that we have, consumer demand, and most important, all the regulatory requirements. With OFI, they launched the Choices for Change updated sustainable strategy. And it's based on the purpose that I meant, being the change for good food and a healthy future. It's based on 4 major platforms: prosperous farmers, thriving communities, climate action, and regenerating the living world. All of that is obviously grounded in supply chain excellence. And from a macro view with OFI, there's very specific targets for 2030, impacting the livelihood of farmers, human rights, climate change, certain carbon reduction from scope 1, 2, and 3. So a lot of great tangible goals. And the key is that they have the boots on the ground and the technology and the processes and the systems to really measure the performance and to have tangible impacts and to be able to make true change. And you can see at the end there, you can find all of the information on the program on our website. And we have a slogan as well, to making it real, which we really, that's the tangible side of having all the tools, having, farms at origin, boots on the ground technology to help enable farmers. You might have seen the app. Some really amazing progress that we've made there, and really making it real, having an impact. And so that's the macro choices for change with OFI, and it leans itself into the different product platforms. And with coffee, we have the Coffee Lens program, and Coffee Lens 2.0. The 2023 report is online, and you can see it's the same 4 platforms with supply chain excellence that's translated in how we look at it for coffee in particular. And what they've done is also made sure under those platforms that they tie into some of the core UN sustainability goals, the 17 goals, but the key ones that are in focus are the ones that are on the tiles on the bottom there, from reducing no poverty, having education, quality education, gender equality, and fostering work and economic growth, responsible consumption, climate action, life on the land, some of that soil regeneration, water conservation, a lot of things that are so critical to healthy coffee climate. So we take a lot of those integrated platforms and systems from a sustainability perspective, especially on the green side for coffee. And then we look at it from a Club Coffee perspective as packaged goods. We look at it from we call it the sustainability trifecta. So you've got sustainable sourcing, that's on greens and a lot of the, at farm processes. Sustainable production, the manufacturing side, and then sustainable packaging, where we've really focused a lot in the last few years. And when we're looking at innovation with coffee, it really has been in packaging for us, but there's a lot still happening with coffee, and it's moved more from hot to cold. We've got kind of the cold brews and functional, lots of new types of flavors and all sorts of different types of things. But the game changer really was in that single serve category, which is about half the sales, to be honest, compared to your regular roast and ground. Consumers like the convenience, they're able to have all sorts of different types. But that's exactly how we look at innovation as well. It just worked out really well to meet that unmet consumer need. So they want the convenience in single serve, they want choice, but they also don't like all the waste. And so that unmet need and demand was something that had a call to action. And we look to commercialize that in compostable. And I'll take you through why we did that in the forefront versus moving straight to recyclable, because we wanted something, as we looked at it in the circular view, you can see there, versus linear design. We're looking at it from a circular perspective, all the inputs and outputs, to optimize things. So we'll take you through how we've actually used upcycled materials in our innovation for the pod, and understanding. We usually say we design with the end use in mind. So if we know consumers are looking for convenience, they didn't want to separate the traditional recyclable type of plastic hard cups. And so compostable, if everything's compostable, including the coffee inside, you don't need to separate it, and can go into a commercial composting. And the key to be able to do these innovative developments and to bring it to market from concept to execution and commercialize it is really having strong collaboration and trust and partnerships, and having the right brands to tell the story about the innovation and deliver a great cup of coffee and help coffee consumers feel good about their choices. So these are the key things. Identify the need. We call that white space when you're innovating. Make sure that you can bring it to market. It's scalable, it's repeatable, it's profitable, and then having the right partners to be able to do this successfully. And when we look at coffee, it really is a critical category for Canadians, for North Americans. It's everywhere. I have these little graphics where everywhere you go, from the airport to your office, your schools, hospitals, your gas stations, convenience, grocery stores, obviously restaurants, coffee houses. It's everywhere. And in Canada, we happen to over-index in consumption versus the United States. We have about the most recent data from the Coffee Association of Canada and Dig Insights is about 74% of Canadians have said they've consumed at least one cup of coffee past day, versus in the States, it's about 66%. And usually people ask, well, and it actually is the number one consumed past day beverage, even over tap water or tea. And why is it so strong in Canada? It could be our climate leaning to that more, but it definitely is, we call it like the Tim Hortons effect. The out-of-home consumption is very strong here, and that influences the in-home. And in total, it's about an $8 billion category for Canada, which is very, very strong. Most of that has the end sales dollar amount. So about 6 billion is about your out-of-home, so your Tim's, McDonald's, Starbucks, second cup Timothy's, and then about 2 billion in sales is your in-home, where consumers can prepare it for themselves. So coffee is big. And then when you look at it from a carbon footprint perspective, with all sorts of different categories when it comes to food, it's up there. It's up there with your, your commodities, your agri sector like beef, and lamb, dairy, chocolate. So it's in your top 10. And what's interesting, obviously, when you're looking at a carbon footprint, you're looking at minimizing carbon gases. Carbon dioxide and methane are the two main ones. But with coffee, the biggest piece of those footprint is really at farm, which we have a lot of efforts to be able to manage that at land use, and farm and soil. But what's unique is you'll see in the gray, that's packaging. Of all of them, coffee probably has the most from a life cycle or a footprint. The packaging probably the biggest in any of them, in that you have to have the packaging to keep it fresh compared to some of the others, like fresh at least, and have all the attributes from aroma, taste, the right roast profile, to at least a minimum of a year, which is standard in the coffee industry. So when it comes to packaging, we need to make sure it can deliver on the quality, but maintain the freshness and aroma, everything that everybody loves about coffee. So with packaging being, such an important part, I like to share this. This is from Grocery Business Magazine. It was in 2023 in their sustainability report issue, December 2023. But BrandSpark did a Canadian survey, about 8,000 people, which is quite big, around sustainability and how they perceive packaged goods and what brands can do. And they basically asked, what must a packaged goods brand do to be sustainable? And the top criteria is really reducing and improving packaging waste. And I always tell people, no matter what you have in your product, your packaging is your first gate. It's the gateway into your brand, your product. They're reading about it, they're engaging with it. They've got to, experience it to experience the entire product. So sometimes it's left as an afterthought, but it really is the first point of your interaction with your consumer. And there's different opportunities for improving packaging. There's recyclability, there's compostability. Obviously, we want to reduce. You have sort of the R's and the hierarchy. You always want to reduce and then reuse if possible. And then if those aren't possible, that's where we look to recycle and compostable solutions. And there's sort of some key kind of, stats in there. Over 57% agree that they'll try new sustainable products if they're available. They believe having these choices is a positive impact on the environment. It says 41% agree that they'll pay a little bit more for sustainable product, but historically, I've seen a lot of these where they'll say, yes, I'm willing to pay a bit more. But in the end, they really believe that it's the right thing to do for a brand or manufacturer to do the right thing and have more sustainable products without having it to cost them more. It's the right thing to do. So if you're able to do that and deliver, that value proposition to your partners, to your consumer, it's a win-win. And for us, when we look at our sustainable packaging solution, we call it our aroma pack solution. Coffee aroma is such a major attribute. So, making sure we preserve all of that. And we have aroma with a recyclable paperboard featuring 41 of those grounds, so it's whole bean and ground coffee. And then we have our aroma pack featuring pure pod 100. It's the first of its kind, developed in Canada with different stakeholders who work with the University of Guelph on a very unique solution. I'll show you in just a second on upcycling our ring. And Lala was the first to launch in Canada. It was the first API certified API biodegradable products Canada Institute. That is the certifying body for compostable in the US and Canada. And then we also launched our compostable espresso capsules for the espresso virtual line. I just have a short video here.
At Club Coffee, we craft, roast, and package quality coffees for top private label and co-manufactured brands. We work with some of the biggest private label retailers in North America who know that they can count on us to provide meaningful growth and differentiation in their coffee portfolio. When you've been roasting quality coffees for over 100 years, you learn a thing or two. It's no secret that we make great coffee, but it isn't just about the coffee. It's about the full circle journey from farm to cup, how our coffee is grown, how it's roasted, and how it's packaged. We're not just another coffee company. We're creating coffee category solutions and sustainable innovations that reduce food waste, facilitate a circular economy, and reduce carbon emissions, all made in our world-class manufacturing facilities. Our compostable and recyclable products are better for people and the planet, helping our customers reduce their carbon footprint, meet environmental and social governance targets, and satisfy consumer demand for delicious, fully sustainable coffee. This amazing recipe for innovation not only provides sustainability benefits and disruptive differentiation, it provides a competitive advantage for our customers. This is what we call Aroma Pack. Our revolutionary Aroma Pack coffee system delivers fresh, great-tasting coffee in today's most innovative, sustainable packaging, including recyclable and compostable solutions for ground, whole bean, and single-serve formats. Aroma Pack featuring Boardio is our newest recyclable innovation. Paper-based canisters that are preferred by consumers for their environmentally friendly design and superior user experience. Not only do they protect and keep coffee fresh, they enhance brand perception and elevate the entire consumer coffee experience with superior handling, scooping, and storage. A shelf-efficient, sustainable solution for ground and whole bean coffee programs. Aroma Pack, featuring Pure Pod 100 technology, is our BPI-certified compostable solution to single-serve plastic waste. Made from renewable plant-based materials, these pods deliver superior quality coffee, taste, and aroma. Their unique design eliminates the need to separate before composting, creating convenience and promoting a circular economy. In similar fashion, our compostable espresso capsules deliver a premium espresso experience. What sets us apart in the coffee industry? Our willingness to lead with an innovation-forward mindset and create sustainable coffee and packaging integration systems that ultimately help our customers achieve their growth and sustainability goals. And how do we manage to achieve all this? Well, it's simple. We envision the future of coffee, and then we create it.
And as you can see, our tagline with our purpose statement of Club Coffee is brewing the good in coffee from all the different elements. And you just saw about Pure Pod launched about I think it was fully in market about end of 2016, 2017. And it's to replace the plastic polypropylene plastic pods. And to be able to enable, have easier end of life disposal where you don't need to separate it. But the key is not just the superior user experience, it's also the design. It almost has like a French press type of brewing and mouthfeel. It's the better quality, we believe, versus kind of brewing through the hot plastic. And it's a smaller footprint. about 90% less carbon versus the polypropylene type plastic cups. Obviously less plastic as well too. We work with York University to run all of our life cycle analyses and assess the impact that we're having for plastic reduction, carbon reduction. And PurePod was also an award winner with the PAC Global Awards and won a global award in 2017 for Best in Show, as well as the Sustainability Award. It's BPI certified, but also CMA tested, field tested and certified. CMA is the Compost Manufacturer Alliance, and they work with composters to be able to get some type of standardization and ensure that products are really going to work in the composting processes from a commercial perspective. There's no home composting certification today in North America. There is some work being done on it. Right now, it's just industrial against an ASTM standard. And what we do is that due diligence, not just do it against the standard from the requirements with ASTM lab requirements, but also to do that real world testing in the different types of composting processes, if it's in vessel or open windrow or air static piles. And our launch in Canada was with Loblaw and Loblaw Branch PC, President's Choice and No Name. And this is about 3 years impact with Loblaw. You can see they've abated about 13,680 metric tons of carbon reduction. And that translates to, and this is what we do with York University for, to understand consumer friendly terms, about 628,000 trees planted or removing almost 3,000 cars from the road. That's equivalent to the type of carbon impact these pods have. And the unique part, sorry, I forgot to mention, was the brown ring. If you can see that, it's naturally brown and it's built with resins that have at the minimum 20% coffee chaff upcycled into the resin. That's what we worked with York University on to develop into the resin and then molded into the rings. And so that upcycled byproduct is actually the coffee bean skins called chaff that comes off in the roasting process, where before it wasn't really used. It was just, I wouldn't say thrown away. I'm sure we tried to compost it, but now we're actually reusing it in that circular design back into the product. And upcycling is starting to emerge as something more brands and manufacturers are looking to leverage. Why waste it when you can reuse it into something and make it even better? And Loblaw has always been an innovation leader, looking to, meet and exceed the needs of their consumers with their products. So they wanted great tasting coffee, easy to use, makes sense sustainably, end of life. And we're really proud, that they're to claim, especially in the state that we have lately, everyone's sort of in Canada looking for made in Canada, proudly roasted and packaged in Canada for their solutions. And then, as you saw, Bourdieu and the roast and ground is our newest innovation, really replacing traditional cans, plastic tubs, and bags. If you look at all those ubiquitous coffee bags that are there, the multi-layer plastic and foil, they are not sustainable. They're not recyclable today. And some might be compostable, but films are very hard to do compostable if you don't have the organic waste with it. The whole point of compostable solutions is when it's related to food waste. And because the pods are 90% coffee grounds and food waste, you want to divert that into the organic waste stream. And that actually adds value for the composters, whereas films, not as much. So we would look more to recyclable for that. And of course, this paper-based, which makes sense. So designing for the right purpose and the right value throughout the supply chain is really, really key. And with Bourdieu, you saw in the video some of the user experience, with tons of research, focus groups, and in-home user testing called iHuts to understand what consumers like, especially when you're looking to have one type of container replacing two well-known types, cans and bags. And there's different elements, scoopability, making sure you can keep it fresh was really, really important. Handling and storage. all sorts of things, making sure, can I still put it in my fridge? Or freezer. Some people like to store their coffee in their fridge and freezers. All those things we had to make sure we tested and met those requirements. And it's a minimum of 80% recyclable paperboard. It's been tested. It has the how to recycle designation for the paper waste stream. And the paper is also certified by FSC, Sustainably Managed Forests. Certification. It's got 55% less plastic than the typical multi-layer bags, because those are typically foil and plastic, and 88% carbon reduction versus steel cans. And you'll see why. How we get the paperboard, it's shipped flat on an inbound basis and then formed and filled on our lines, whereas cans are shipped empty all over the world and then filled at the line. But it also keeps the coffee, premium functionality, helps with the innovative moisture barrier to keep the coffee fresh. And then this is just an example of that whole impact of shipping inbound and the efficiency. 30 times more it can be. This is one scenario from a trailer perspective of what you're saving from shipping all those empty, this is against cans, around the world when you're shipping flat. So there's a key carbon impact and savings and reduction when it comes to Boardio. And Loblaw was the first to launch. Once again, they're, great innovators and partners. First to launch just a couple of years ago, and a 2-year impact. They've really made a difference in their leadership. They changed the whole set. If you go to their stores, I really encourage you to have a look. And it's had, about 1,454 metric tons reduction in carbon. That's equivalent to about planting 67,000 trees and removing over 300 cars from the road. So great to see the progress there. And then the key, I just added some key learnings, through the journey in these last 8+ years of the sustainable innovation from a packaging perspective, and the green side too, but looking for that unmet consumer need. It needs to be relevant to their demand needs today and looking forward. It could evolve, it can change. One example is e-com. Coffee is a really strong category from an omni-channel perspective, specifically e-com coffee pods. You can get so many more varieties and choices on like the likes of Amazon or Walmart.com or Walmart.ca. But if you're thinking about the different channel and that consumer need, well, maybe there's unique packaging needs, or being able to have specific bulk options. So we're always looking to evolve and innovate to meet that need. And looking at the circularity of the design and the impact, assess all the different opportunities end to end within the supply chain and the benefits. And as I mentioned, ensure when you're, successful innovation to me is innovation that can be commercialized. It's got to be scalable, repeatable, and profitable in the long term. Talked about collaboration with key partners, especially our brand partners, who can tell the right story to their consumers. One thing that stood out with me in the different conferences I've been to was the fact that if you can make these sustainable changes, but if you don't tell the consumer why you've done it, and you just got to put it on the shelf or say, reduce this, it may not help them understand the true value or what their decision consuming and purchasing that product is going to mean. And so the more that you can do that, and it's limited on packaging, so the more that you can have that as an integrated story, if it's digital, social, online, QR codes, whatever that is, packaging stories that really pop out. That's really important. Otherwise, you do all this amazing work, it's really important and can have an impact, but it'll sit there because they won't know that benefit that it might have. And you always need to target to be cost effective as well too. And like I said, consumers say they're willing to pay more, but when it comes to deciding on the shelf, when they're actually there, they struggle with it. So as much as you can do, and some of the circular design and upcycling to leverage the byproducts to make it more cost effective is a win-win. It's a win-win, great for the environment and great from a cost input perspective. And I mentioned already the why, making sure you talk about the story and the benefits, but it has to also be simple and relevant and meaningful to the consumer. If you start throwing out a whole bunch of, scientific terms and, just things that they're not familiar with, it's kind of, it loses its impact. So it's really important to have that relevance. And the key to is never give up. Keep on moving ahead, learn and grow from the different experiences. And you might fail, or you might be too early to market sometimes where people understand, the true benefit, but don't give up. Keep on working, have those collaborative relationships, and keep moving forward. Thanks. I'm going to stop sharing.
Honestly, so fascinating. I think the things that come through for me is education is key. I feel like I've been in this industry for over 15 years now, and you just constantly learn, like learn. It's incredible. And coffee is a big decision in my household too. Like it's important. So that's just fascinating. I had no idea it was an $8 billion industry. I mean, obviously, it's big, but wow, and the impact, and yeah, just a lot to take away there. I guess I would love to ask you, one of the things that we've learned through leading the FoodGrads brand, as I do in the CareersNOW initiative, is we work a lot with young people, with youth. And we do hear that, company culture is really important to a young person, as well as having a purpose, not just showing up to work for a paycheck, but feeling like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And what you shared today, I mean, I was constantly like, this is amazing, and those connections can be made to this is how you can make an impact. What advice would you give to a young person that's perhaps still at university, figuring out, but wants to do something in sustainability, knows that that's their passion? What advice would you give? Where do you even start?
It's such a great question, Nicole. It's I think it's having your own personal purpose as well, to understanding that. Like sometimes people in my whole journey, I'm not that young anymore, but I feel like I've matured in understanding my personal purpose. So having a personal purpose is a good start, and it may evolve. That's okay, but at least if you know what's important to you, like I've evolved to the point. My personal purpose in life is to make a difference, a positive difference to people, being kinder to people, animals, and the environment. It's simple. So having values that tie to those purpose, is really important. So find, those industries or those companies that share those similar values. And I know everybody's got their values and so on, but you'll see if you're able to kind of have those, connect points, where, it's, if it's important, like say, farmer livelihood or something like, making an impact on people's lives. And you don't have to boil the ocean and do everything for everyone. It's okay to be very focused, but understand what's important to you, your values. How does that tie into the industry? And where would you like to start? And sometimes you just have to start. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you may realize that you think it's one way, but it ends up being something else. So, and what I would say is how to do that is really be humble and learn and be like a sponge. Build your network. Don't be afraid to reach out. Certainly you're available. I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I'm always happy to help answer or share my journey. And the companies that, have the right position and can show, like, well, that's what I love about OFI and Club Coffee. I love the fact that it really is tangible. It's accountable. Like it's not just surface, kind of, marketing statements. You want to make sure that you're making a difference. And I feel that, when you're in a company that you can see something that you can measure, you feel accountable, then you really feel that you're making that true difference. And have a network to enable to do that. Understand the different types of businesses that are out there and the elements of it. Like retail is very different than manufacturing, or very different than CPG. So what are those elements? Like retail is all about execution. It's all about the consumer, so there's a bit more on that. So is CPG. Manufacturing, you have to understand, but a lot of it more systems, operations, continuous improvement. So, where would you like to kind of lean more to? And in the end, though, all of it has to be based on your people. Because who you work with or whatever company you work for, you want to make sure that the people, they share the same values, they're passionate about the same things. And that's what I'm really blessed with. I love people I work with. We get excited about what we do. And the last piece, I know that's a lot to ball up into, but the last piece I would say too is in building your network, talking to people is really having those mentors. And there's a difference, I feel, mentors and sponsors in your career to understand where to look next, how to evolve, and mentorship, I feel, is more of like a personal development, and sponsorship is really more the career wise. I always say a sponsor is somebody who understands what your strength is, knows who your brand is, and what you can bring to a business, and they'll advocate for that for you. And it's really important to identify who those people are in your career, in the company that you want to work for, because that's just going to help your journey.
Great advice. And for Offie, you mentioned culture. What would you say were the top soft skills that young people hear about soft skills all the time? I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were sharing that kindness is their number one soft skill, and it is a skill. Like I mean, it's something that should be in us, but that's their number one. It's a big. They were talking about Snapchat actually, and kindness, smart, and creative. Like those are the three things they look for. So I'm curious, for your organization, what would be the top soft skills that you look for to know that this person is going to be you're going to be the right home for them?
Right. That's such a great question, because we actually have at Club Coffee, our ethos is built around three major soft skills when it comes to leadership. And we say you need to be hungry, humble, and smart. And I really believe that's been consistent in what we look for in our leaders. All of that still is grounded in, you say, kindness and empathy. I think having empathy for all the different aspects, of business, if it's your empathy for the consumers, for the environment, for your people, that just kind of, opens your eyes to different perspectives. But the three major ones that we have that I think are applicable to anywhere are being hungry, humble, and smart.
I like those. Well, I'm so grateful for your time today. I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. I know you're incredibly busy. So thank you so much again for taking the time sharing that with us. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if anyone that's listening to this has any questions for myself or for Solange, please feel free to reach out. My contact details will most likely appear anywhere you're watching this, and I can always get questions over to Solange if you want specific feedback there. Again, thank you so much for doing this. I feel like I need to watch this again myself just to pick up on all the pieces, because there's so much good advice and content there. Even what you've shared is transferable to other food companies, other industries. It's just that I think it does start with empathy, but both for your, the product, the consumer, the way that you look at all the different facets. Yeah, I was writing things down as you were speaking, and even for our business, how we can implement some of those things. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and having us share a story. And like I said, people can reach out to me, and I'm always happy to share and learn as well too. If there's something anybody has, help teach me.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole.